We're now watching The Wash daily. Whether or not Christians are able to use cannabis is a hot topic these days with legalization. A lot of times folks who identify as Christians say that the law of the state is the law of God, out of a misunderstanding of the scriptures, Romans 13, to say your government is your God, which is not what it says. But anyway, if it's legal, they can do it and they're fine. And if it's not legal, they can't. As God says, it's better that we obey God's laws than the laws of man. And the laws of God say we should eat for our food all the green seed-bearing herbs. And that's what he tells us to eat. And when we don't eat that, we get in trouble. Because if we start eating things that aren't designed for our food, then we get health issues. And if we eat good food, we wouldn't have the health issues we have by not eating the food we're supposed to eat. Two pastors, Charlie Grand and Barnabas Sprinkle, put out a book out. It's called Jesus and Mary, quote unquote Jane, a clever title, but their premise is that cannabis still isn't good for people of God to use unless they're using it for medicine. But otherwise, you're not supposed to smoke cannabis. They say the premise of the book isn't whether or not cannabis is good or bad. I don't know that they're in their book advocating not taking Tylenol, refusing opiates or statin drugs, or eating aspartame or high fructose corn syrup. But certainly, what the Bible actually teaches is that we're supposed to use cannabis, and that we're supposed to have joy abundantly, and that the wages of sin is death. The number of people who have died from cannabis is 0. I'll be interested in getting a copy of that book, and I will certainly have a good time going through it. Great news, more Christians are coming on board to the use of at least medicinal cannabis, and there's some ground to cover, but I think we just have to correct some errors and statist thinking. Since the murder of George Floyd, there's been increased scrutiny on city and town budgets, on how much of their money is going to the police forces, and especially how much of the funds that are coming through legalization of cannabis are supporting the police. A lot of people are pulling down statues, but they're not pulling down the statutes. Because one of the biggest problems we have is not the police, but the laws that they're enforcing. No one's looking any further than the police. Well, what about the laws they're enforcing? These laws are ridiculous and need to be wiped off the books. It's not just a matter of policing. It's a matter of changing the law. Now, legal cannabis has only been around for a few years, but it's been a tremendous boom for many economies, and it's been a source of funding for police departments. In a recent report, Portland, Oregon said that 46% of the revenue created by cannabis went right to the policing bureau and supported policing activity. Now, the hypocrisy is that there's still people in prison for cannabis, and these cities and towns have been using cannabis against people for so long. Now they're finally legalize it and they're benefiting from it. I think when people legalize cannabis, no one is saying, hey, we would really like these giant multinationals to come in and to occupy and monopolize the entire cannabis market and force everybody to start using GMO grown cannabis. Potentially harmful fertilizer and pesticides like glyphosate. We don't want glyphosate in our weed. These multinationals have no interest in keeping us safe, nor do they keep our cannabis safe. Their goal is to produce the most product that they can for the least cost. It's finally coming to light, the crime that is criminalizing cannabis users. All over the nation, economic empowerment businesses are opening up where folks who had been disproportionately affected by the war on drugs are now able to open up a business, participate in cannabis commerce. Colorado is pioneering a program where new businesses work alongside existing veteran businesses, kind of like an apprenticeship model, where a veteran business with all the experience can directly transfer that information to a new business in hopes that they'll be a successful business in the long run. It's easy to start a business, it's hard to stay in one. Hopefully this will give regular folks the opportunity to benefit from growing a natural plant that has over 1,000 uses to benefit humanity. Thanks for watching The Wash daily.